Diyan mo na lang bigyan sa labas. Eh, pinabayad. Eh, ang ginamit niya sa Gcash ko ng 585. 180 na. pa nagpapaload. Swerte. Uy, ako na pumunta. Ako na
Earphone nga. Po, nakabukas na.
Wala time sale. Sabi ko na. Sa agent lang yun. Kahit na yabang na buko. yung mga yan. Saan? Ay, hindi. Uli na kayo.
no suffering. In order to find the elixir of immortality, this is the real reason why she is here. Okay, we've just been
Computer 7, USB device removed. Computer 7, USB device mounted.
Jujutsu Kaisen Chapter 231 has just revealed Gojo is even stronger than we thought. Now you may ask, how is that even possible? He's already proven to be the absolute strongest. Well, just you wait, because that doesn't stop Gege from manifesting his own statement that Gojo is the pinnacle of strength in the manga. He is going feral and is focused on killing Sukuna now. Even Yuji back there is concerned that he has forgotten all about his son, Megami.
Who?
But how did we get here? Well, after Sukuna finally unveiled Maharaga's adaptation to Unlimited Void, he and Gojo were once again forced into a stalemate because they have severe brain damage. Neither of them could use their domain expansion anymore, which is why it has boiled down to a hand-to-hand combat. And just like all the sneak peeks into hand-to-hand battles, Gojo was sweeping the place with Sukuna. Let alone Jujutsu, my dude's taijutsu is also superior to flawed Kuna. That's when the residential expert Kusakabe begins his lecture again, asking if anyone has ever been seriously punched by Gojo. What he meant is if someone had experienced a blue flash punch. Huh? That's right, a new power that we didn't know Gojo actually possessed is revealed. His punches are also extraordinarily powerful too. Whilst his fist is enhanced with curse energy, Gojo's punches are also laced with his blue technique, so that at the moment of impact, they repeatedly absorb the surrounding space.
Computer
now,
is
I know
still.
a lot of you forgot and you probably don't have my degree in anime science. This technique is actually the strengthened Limitless Blue. When Gojo fires up Limitless with curse energy, it creates an attraction force around itself. This brings negative spaces into reality to create a magnetic force that attracts everything towards it to fill up the empty space. One can think of it as an extremely high power vacuum cleaner that sucks up everything with an insane force. This follows the same principle as a black hole. And now imagine it hitting you successfully. If you can't think of how that feels, Yuta and Hakari sure do. They admitted that when Gojo punched them, they actually threw up. Mind you, both of them are technically special grade sorcerers, whilst also being front runners to surpass Gojo someday. Meanwhile, Miguel in Jujutsu Kaisen 0 somewhere feels like the only honored one among heaven and earth for surviving his goddamn fight with Gojo in that movie. How did he not throw up? To be fair, if you look at it now, that dude's defense was really good in perspective. Let me give you a quick reminder of his beatdown.
It was at this moment that he knew he fucked up.
He needs some milk!
Coming back, Hakari further explains that Gojo's punch isn't just stronger, it feels like a double impact, which you aren't prepared for, mentally or physically. After all, a punch hits you in the opposite direction, whilst blue sucks in the surrounding space towards itself. This paradoxical phenomena makes Gojo's punches the absolute worst in the manga. However, this is not the first time we have been told about this. Back in chapter 14, when Jogo got hit, his instant thought was that Gojo's punch isn't just a curse energy infused attack, and that there was more to it. He couldn't even understand what was going on. He even stated in chapter 65 that Gojo's physical attacks alone would kill them all, even though they scaled at 8 Sukuna fingers. In the same way, after Gojo straight up disrespected Uriume for interrupting a conversation, they admitted in chapter 222 that even the reverse curse technique couldn't heal the wound completely, and it still hurt. It makes all the most sense how Gojo thoroughly understood the dual impact of Yuji's divergent fist and asked him to mold it into a weapon until he could flow his curse energy better. Gojo is using a similar principle for his punches as well. However, that's when Yuji remembers that Nanami actually warned him not to compare himself to Gojo. I mean, who in their right mind can even begin thinking of something like that, am I right? Because this frankly scales Gojo
Computer
even
is
higher
still.
than we expected. The community has always questioned why we haven't seen Gojo use Black Flash repeatedly like Yuji Itadori, since he, of all people, understands the core of curse energy the most in the world. Well, apparently, every single hit of Gojo is a Black Flash technically speaking. He is critically hitting his opponent all the time. Nanami explained that Gojo is capable of landing critical hits like how a sorcerer would land average attacks, something that even Nanami struggles to execute in the first place. This means that if Nanami landed 2 critical hits among 5 attacks, Gojo would be landing 5 critical hits, as if that's the normalcy of a fight, implying that he is so above others in power level that if all of them faced him at the same time and he was serious, Gojo would one punch every single one of his teammates before they could even react, and they would be knocked out or incapacitated. Breaking this down even further, going balls deep.
He said it! He said it!
We were told via Yuji's strongest feats that when a sorcerer uses Black Flash, they learn the essence of curse energy inconceivably more than someone who hasn't. Yuji made it look like he was using it via his own will against Mahito. But here comes Gojo, who is doing the impossible, and exactly that, which is why Yuji is told not to even compare himself because he will get depressed. We must remember that Nanami is honest to a fault about Gojo, thus making these words very important, as even Sukuna over here is about to meet his fists. It is proved in the ongoing fight that even 1000 years of Jujutsu experience crumbled against the powerhouse Gojo is. After all, Sukuna isn't just the strongest of his period, he has also earned the title of King of Curses, and it is highlighted in the way he fights. He recognized the worth of 10 shadows instantly, and even mastered
Computer
it at an insane
5
rate,
connected.
even taming
Computer
Maharaja,
5
the strongest
has previous
Shinigami that never
version.
had been
Computer
tamed. He has
5
the ability to
USB
do
device
something like
removed.
this because of
Computer
his vast
5
knowledge of
USB
Jujutsu,
device
which allowed
mounted.
him to
Computer
survive as a
5
cursed
USB
object.
device
He also
mounted.
undeniably has a tactical mindset, using and abusing every piece of information he has about Gojo's technique, making him prepared. There's no doubt that whilst Gojo has been learning on the go with his raw talent and affinity for Jujutsu, Sukuna himself had cooked up answers for Gojo's domain expansion, limitless, and even his mindset.
Computer
However,
5
this is
member
Satoru
session
freaking
started.
Gojo we're talking about, and he is the ultimate menace. This guy figured out Sukuna in just a short while of spamming domain expansion.
Computer
If it wasn't
5
for Maharaja,
USB
we
device
all know that
removed.
Sukuna's
Computer
brain would
5
have been purified
USB
by now.
device
On top
mounted.
of that, he also legit gave Sukuna a step-by-step tutorial to heal domain burnout through reverse curse technique, something that Sukuna himself didn't know. This is a testament to not only his powers, but also his ability to master, understand, and analyze situations. Even with Maharaja, Sukuna is facing tons of problems, as Gojo is unfathomably quick to adapt and come up with the most creative ways of dealing with the King of Curses, whom even the likes of Kenjaku and Tengen can't compete with in terms of knowledge. In fact, this is to the point that Kusekabe, our encyclopedia, has given up understanding his actions and motives right now. I read your comments. A lot of you are saying, oh my god, without ABD, I wouldn't be able to understand this fight. And I appreciate that. And I love the support you give us on a weekly basis. But can I ask for a favor? Hit the notification bell for our channel and also smash the like button for our videos so we can continue doing our job for you. Now, as we are in round 2, the fight continues and it gets more intense. It's clear that both Gojo and Sukuna are in the endgame mindset right now. As we know, Sukuna is currently using Maharaja's wheel on himself, implying that Maharaja will adapt to any attack Gojo uses against him by bearing the burden. In the meantime, to defend himself against Limitless, he is also switching to domain amplification. On the other hand, my man Gojo pulls off the badass Killer follow-on move of after images, making another Hunter x Hunter reference in this fight. No wonder Kusakabe gave up on explaining this fight, by the way, or Jujutsu Kaisen would end up as a light novel disguised as a manga, just like that infamous Hunter x Hunter panel. Bruh, look at it! But after trashing Sukuna around like a ragdoll, similar to how Broly did Goku, Sukuna grabs him and finally lands a hit after all this time, sending Gojo flying on top of a traffic light. And once again, Gojo has another otaku moment as he makes a reference to Itachi in Naruto whilst realizing a theory he had come up with mid-battle. The bad news is that Maharaga's wheel turned once again to signal that it is adapting to Limitless. Even though Sukuna muses that Gojo is using simple techniques based around his blue Limitless to restrict Maharaga's adaptation, but the good news is Gojo confirmed that when Sukuna uses domain amplification, the wheel turns black, essentially implying that both of them can't work together, since the damage is restricted to the brain's area of barrier techniques. Sukuna can't use his domain but still use amplification, which hinders the adaptation process. In fact, Maharaga has a binding vow regarding a certain number of wheel spins before it adapts to Gojo's Limitless. More specifically, Gojo states that it needs 4 total spins to do so, and since the wheel has already turned once, that leaves 3 spins. 3 spins for Gojo to end Sukuna before Maharaga surpasses the strongest defense in the Jujutsu verse, and 3 spins before Sukuna reveals his hand with the curse technique he has been sitting on so far, like the fire one against Jogo. As he states, this fight now has an intense cooldown. Without Limitless, this sets up the next part of the fight in an intriguing way. Clearly, Gojo has to minimize using his stronger abilities to prevent adaptation whilst also going for the ultimate victory in the fight within the time limit. Thus, he will be forced to use the comparatively weaker abilities in new and creative ways whilst biding his time to sneak in red or purple. And on the other hand, Sukuna also has to be extremely wary regarding domain amplification in hand-to-hand combat, since he has to get hit for Maharaga to adapt but also throw in punches. Just one wrong timing of turning off the wheel at the wrong moment will end up with Gojo dealing severe damage to him. However, once Maharaga will adapt to Limitless, as Sukuna's plan was always to use it in order to break down Gojo's defense to throw everything he has with no risk, including the actual curse technique he has been hiding since the start of the manga. Yeah, we're talking about the mysterious black box that Sukuna chanted to use his fire-based curse technique. In chapter 230 of the manga, Kusakabe states that the part of the brain where the curse technique is stored is a black box. Here, he means it literally, as we don't know much about it. On several occasions, even Shoko has stated that there is some sort of connection between the brain and one's curse technique. During his fight against Jogo, Sukuna states that a cursed spirit wouldn't know about this. When you add the fact that Gege confirmed Infinite Void works better on humans as they have a different brain from cursed spirits, it is possible that Sukuna meant something fundamental.
Hello, my name is Ed and welcome to Anime Adventure again. Now I'ma show you how to fully evolve Pucci into
In today's video, I'll be showing you what the top 6 best heal and hybrid units in this update 15.5. I've only selected units that starts as a heal or hybrid unit. If you do not know what heal or hybrid unit you're going for, then this video will help you choose the best and insanely strong one. Let's get it! Every units in this video are all obtainable and not from trading. Remember to subscribe and like, and with that being said, in no particular order, the first unit is King Sloth. King Sloth still have the highest range for heal units in this update 15.5, with him being a multi-hit which makes him great against shield enemies. King Sloth's stats are max upgrade and max level are 58,399.79 damage with his SPA at 7 seconds, making his damage per second at 8,342.83. King Sloth's placement is 5, which makes his group damage per second insanely strong. Yippee! When all 5 are placed, and the best trait you can have on him is Divine. King Sloth is a multi-hit at later upgrades which will do well against shield enemies. He is quite useful at certain maps as he has 2 damage types, magic and light. So you could possibly bring him for maps that buff light units, and he does have an insane range, so I recommend placing him further back. King Sloth costs 53,350 yen to fully upgrade one King Sloth. Hog. Alright, next unit is Hawk's Fierce Wings. Hawks is one of the best physical heal unit, especially with how good his group damage is in this update 15.5. Hawk's Fierce Wing stats are max upgrade and max level are 47,382.54 damage with his SPA at 4.5 seconds, making his damage per second at 10,529.45, which makes Hawk's Fierce Wings one of the best physical heal unit in this update 15.5. Hawk's Fierce Wings is difficult to evolve as you will have to continuously defeat the My Hero Academia Legend stage.
One of Ichigo's most badass transformations was his Vizard holification, but controlling it to the level he achieved would never have been possible if not for Shinji Hirako, current captain of Squad 5. And in the 1000-Year Blood War arc, Kubo has revealed some exclusive anime-only information regarding his full power. Shinji, despite not being the most popular captain, is an absolute beast. This guy had been shrouded in mystery for most of Bleach, always showcasing that goofy-ass smile. However, there resides a mountain of strength, a power that could go head-to-head with some of Bleach's strongest characters. What makes Shinji so strong? Is it his holification? Is it his Shikai? No, it's a power that's much deeper than either of these things, something we never got to see in the original manga. It's his Bankai. Let's go! Yes, Shinji's Bankai has finally been revealed, and it's so strong that it was forbidden to be ever used by Yamamoto. But what is this Bankai? What makes it so forbidden? Well, it all has to do with Shinji's secret past. Shinji joined the Soul Society a couple of 100 years before the events of Bleach, and due to his skills, quickly rose through the ranks and became captain of the 5th Division. He would serve as captain for at least 100 years and would be known for his ability to read people and his calm, level-headed mindset while in battle. Shinji also has a goofy side to him, which usually comes out during his encounter with Hiyori, lieutenant of Squad 12. The two would get into countless childish arguments, but were very close friends. However, Shinji's whole world was about to be turned upside down when this guy showed up. Aizen started his plot to gain the ultimate power and balance between Shinigamis and Hollows, so to further his goals, he would join the Gote 13, getting access to numerous Shinigamis for his experiments. Eventually, Shinji started to suspect that Aizen was more than what he portrayed to be, and so to keep an eye on him, he appointed Aizen as his lieutenant. During the same time, Kisuke Urahara was just appointed into his new position as the captain of Squad 12, heading up the Research and Science Division. division. This furthered Urahara's relationship with Shinji, who would give him tips on how to handle being a captain to his squad, especially his lieutenant Hiyori. After 9 years, Aizen would finally set the first stages of his plan into motion, which forced Shinji onto a mission alongside other Soul Reapers to investigate the disappearance of residents in the Rukongai district. However, when Shinji appeared to investigate, he was in for a massive shock. Not only did he discover that Tosen had betrayed the 9th division, but he was actually following Aizen's orders. Shinji told Aizen he was sus all along, hence his real motive of making him a lieutenant to keep an eye on him. However, Aizen responds with the fact that Shinji was wrong. He might have kept Aizen close, but not close enough. All this time, the Aizen that had been following Shinji around at a distance was but a fake.
Like, are you serious right now?
Yes, it was all an illusion thanks to Aizen's Sanpakto, Kyoka Suigetsu. But since Shinji never paid close attention to Aizen's mannerisms, he never noticed this huge difference. Aizen even tells Shinji that had he tried getting to know him, he would have figured him out much earlier. So the distance between them was the reason for this 10-year-long dupe. And after giving that badass speech, Aizen made his move to kill Shinji, only to be stopped by none other than the legend himself, Kisuke Urahara.
That's why he's the GOAT! The GOAT!
Just as Aizen was about to destroy Shinji, Urahara and the Kido captain Tasai appeared to save his ass. Fending off Aizen and his goons, Tasai transported the hollified victims, including Shinji, to Urahara's lab where he tried to reverse the process using his new invention, the Hogyoku. But sadly, he failed. But at least they were brought back to their human senses. However, on top of this L, under the orders of Central 46, Urahara and Tasai were arrested and framed for the holification, causing the holified Shinigami to be sentenced to execution as hollows. However, before any of their sentences could be carried out, they all were rescued by Yorichi. With Urahara's invention of 10 Reiatsu blocking Gigais, he was able to escape to the real world along with Tasai, Shinji, and rest of the holified victims. Due to Shinji's absence, Aizen was then able to put his plan further into motion by becoming captain of Squad 5. Then skipping to 100 years later, Shinji would finally make his grand entrance by going to high school. Come on guys, this is a shonen. We're used to this by now. By this point, Shinji had completely mastered his holification powers and so decides to help Ichigo do the same and tame the beast within him. However, the first time we truly see Shinji's powers after becoming a Vizard is during Grimmjow's invasion of Karakura Town, where he activates his Hollow Mask. Shinji, being the leader of the Vizards, is embodied by his Hollow Mask, as it strongly resembles a pharaoh's mask, who are said to be the kings of their people in ancient Egypt. Though for Shinji, his Vizard form only lasts for a mere 3 minutes, while he gains dual type spiritual energy, Hollow and Soul Reaper, which means this guy is a double crack, as in turn, this gives him enhanced speed, strength, and a monstrous Reiatsu. The Hollow Mask also grants him incredible endurance, becoming much more resilient to pain. Shinji himself even states that when he first underwent holification, wearing the mask felt like being in someone else's body. To demonstrate just how powerful the Hollow Mask is, Shinji was able to overwhelm Grimmjow, the 6th strongest Espada, by evading his attacks due to his mastery of Shunpa. This is a guy who was one-shotting Ichigo's Bankai with ease. Come on, put some respect on his name. Using his speed and strength, Shinji dodges all of Grimmjow's attacks and delivers powerful counters while using only his sealed Zanpakuto. Like, goddamn, dude, this dude is a mess. He wasn't even using his Zanpakuto. It's also important to note that while using his Hollow Mask, Shinji is able to use hollow abilities like a Seto, which demolishes Grimmjow, hurtling him into the city down below. By doing this, Grimmjow is furious, so much so that he decides to release his Zanpakuto, something he only ever does to his strongest foes, such as main characters in Ichigo or main villains like Aizen. The next time we see Shinji's insane power would be when Aizen invades fake Karakura Town. After 100 years, Shinji and the other Vizards have come to take their revenge. Aizen, due to the twisted respect he has for Shinji because he was his captain for like a whole decade, tells him he will unsheath his sword just for him, showcasing Aizen's caution, knowing he can't take him lightly. Like, this is Aizen we're talking about. This is a guy who puts respect on nobody. Shinji isn't playing games, however, and finally releases his Zanpakuto, Sakanade. It is absolutely busted,
Computer
even
is
without
still.
the use of his Bankai, as its Shikai, when released with the command Taorero, or collapse, enlarges Sakanade's pommel to the size of a massive ring where Shinji's hand can rotate the sword however he wishes, without even gripping it. This makes Sakanade one of the most agile swords in Bleach, making it a force to be reckoned with. However, the true terror of Shinji's Shikai is its ability to drug his opponents and make them high.
Oh, that's that good
I'm not trolling. Seriously, Shinji's Shikai releases a pink mist from his sword, and anyone that smells it will immediately come under an optical illusion called the reverse world. In this state, a person's perception of left and right, up and down, and even forward and backwards are reversed, like flying planes in GTA but with inverted controls. But it's not just the sense of direction. Shinji's Shikai also inverts a person's eyesight, direction of incoming attacks, and injury location. Think about it this way. Imagine waking up and everything being the opposite of what it was. Left was right and right was left. When jumping up, you're actually jumping down. Even some of your senses, such as eyesight, are reversed. It's almost like you're in a dreamlike state where nothing makes sense. Or just eat a bag of gummies and you'll experience the same thing. Shinji's Shikai can also severely affect the equilibrium of those its power is used on, giving them vertigo, causing confusion, disorientation, and nausea. Shinji's Shikai is basically a drug that completely fucks the mind. To show just how formidable these powers are in action, Shinji went head to head with Aizen, who up to this point was seen as virtually unstoppable. Without realizing it, Aizen enters Shinji's reverse world, but he quickly figures out its reverse nature and is able to block Shinji's attacks. He thinks he's in complete control until Shinji cuts Aizen's right arm.
It was at this moment that he knew he fucked up.
He explains that trying to counter by processing Sakanade's power in mind isn't possible. This is because no matter how strong his opponents may be, even if they are heavily accustomed to fighting, their body won't be able to adapt to this change due to their reflexes preventing proper reaction. Hence why even Aizen couldn't big brain his way out of it. This guy not only got a hit on Aizen, but also roasted and disrespected him. Aizen, the guy who thought he could be a god, was owned by a dude with a yellow bowl on his head. But come on, by now we all should know that everything
Result ngayong Thursday, July 27, 2020. Ultra Lotto 650.
Ohayo gozaimasu, my friend. Ohayo gozaimasu, my friend. Shut your brain, man. You know, sometimes I just need to shut the hell up and just start the video. Yeah, so as you can see, today we are on Anime Fighting Simulator X. I know, that's exactly what I thought when I saw it. So I'm sure you guys know about Anime Fighting Simulator. If you don't know about it, I don't know what to say, but I'm guessing most of you guys.
言葉なんかじゃ何一つ叶わないわかってるわかってるんだ順はうちにどこまでも幅解けたらないつの日も夢見てたそれでも一歩一歩不確かな世界でも何度も倒れた鉄層反応のまま泣きもしていからさ遥か未来へ今駆け出したんだまだ見ぬ不安すら全て超えてあの日描いた僕が僕であるためにいつの日かページの続きが今日君という希望とよまるでいつかのワンページのような君と僕が出会えたこれを奇跡って言うのかまるでいつかのワンページのような君と僕が出会えたこれを奇跡って言うのか遥か未来へ今駆け出したんだまだ見ぬ不安すら
2,000 years later.
あの日描いた僕が僕であるためにいつの日かページの続きが今日君という希望とよ
牽制が背中割って新宿は一つ立ってゲット目を覚ましてよゲットもう間もない願いを文字に起こした知識に乗ってその身にはどんな曇りな全てを振り合うように最電話ララの演奏エセくてくれて言葉なんかじゃ何一つ叶わないわかってるわかってるんだ順はうちにどこまでも幅解けたらないつの日も夢見てたそれでも一歩一歩不確かな世界でも何度も倒れた鉄層反応のまま泣きもしていからさ遥か未来へ今駆け出したんだまだ見ぬ不安すら全
ボートよまるでいつかのワンページのような君と僕が出会えたこれを奇跡って言うのかまるでいつかのワンページのような君と僕
神死にの槍挽回残火の太刀
This is the Nether, and I'm going to completely remove it. That includes the lava ocean, all the netherrack, and even the bedrock roof. And luckily using this machine, it should make it super easy. Okay, that's one bedrock done, only 300,000 more to go. This is going to take a while, and I wasn't being sarcastic. If I keep using this bedrock breaking method, I'll be doing this for the next 465 days. In real life, which is why I introduce you to the Bedrock Breaker 2000.
Computer, 5 minutes left or time is up. Computer, time is up. Computer, connection lost.
Alright, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to another video on the Just Kenji channel. Cards have been the best. Urahara. I mean, if you use Alright, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to another video on the Just Kenji channel. So in today's video, this is going to be a video that is probably going to be controversial, depending on which faction you are. But if you guys are in channel, please like the video, subscribe, and turn on post notifications because I'm trying to hit 16k subs, so please let me just go. So basically, we're going to be talking about the best race. The best race is very dependent on the person. Some people will say Arancar is the best. Some people will say Quincy's the best. Some people will say Soul Reapers are the best. It all depends on what you're personally biased to.
Uryu Ishida, the Sternitary, who got the special power of antithesis from Yuhawaha the Almighty. But what actually is antithesis? Antithesis is a highly broken ability that allows the user to reverse something that has already happened between two targets. For example, Uryu can switch the damage he received with the damage he inflicted, or the position he was in with the position his opponent was in. This power is very dangerous and can even threaten the almighty Yuavaha. Uryu was the only Quincy who could resist Yuavaha's Oshwayne, a technique that steals the power of other Quincy's. This is because he has a very pure Quincy bloodline that survived the first Oshwayne in history when Yuavaha fought against Yamamoto Genjusai. Uryu was also chosen by Yuavaha as his successor and given the designation A Antithesis. Do follow Sony for more Bleach content.
This is the final video leading up to the Ichigo Kurosaki character analysis that I've been promising for so long. In this video, I'm going to be covering the character who is Ichigo's rival as well as his closest ally. Of course, I'm referring to Uryu Ishida. The title that I've given him is the Antithesis. This is because the Quincy are the complete opposite of the Shinigami, and this is in regards to the way that they deal with hollows. And this is also in reference to the shrift that Yhwach gives to Uryu later on in the 1000 Year Blood War arc. Similar to the videos that I made on Chad and Orihime, there is a lot to unpack about Uryu, citizen of Karakura-tan with his own life. Uryu wants to prove the strength of the Quincy by allowing an inexperienced Ichigo to become exhausted while he pushes forward while the Shinigami in his presence is forced to stand by and do nothing, because as we know from Uryu's past, he determines the Shinigami to be unreliable, and via this contest he wants to prove this point. In chapter 45, when the hollows begin to converge on a crack that's appeared within the sky, Uryu declares that he is the last of the Quincy and charges towards them. This is where Ichigo learns that the Quincy were eliminated 200 years ago. Rukia explains to Ichigo that the surviving Quincy despise the Shinigami, and this hatred was developed when the Quincy were annihilated by the Shinigami all those years ago. As Urahara explains, the Shinigami had no choice but to eliminate the Quincy. While Shinigami cleanse and purify hollows, Quincy eradicate hollows. If allowed to continue, then they would have caused an imbalance of souls between the Soul Society and the world of the living. It would have resulted in the collapse of the entire universe, as it is the duty of the Shinigami to maintain order in the world and to maintain a correct balance of souls between the two different realities. In chapter 46, Uryu reveals to Ichigo that he holds no grudge against the Shinigami for their decision to eliminate the Quincy all those years ago. He in fact admits that when he had heard the story of the Quincy and the Shinigami, he had sided with the Shinigami. He had only started to hate the Shinigami once his grandfather was killed in front of him. We learned that Uryu's grandfather was a very understanding man, and he had explained to a very young Uryu that despite the Quincy being eradicated, it didn't matter about who was right or wrong. He explains to Uryu that the most important lesson to learn from this is how to never let this happen again. He tells him that seeing the sad faces of humans, Quincy's, or even Shinigami pains him. Uryu reveals that his grandfather, who was also his master, had taught him to never hate anybody. Since he was one of the last surviving Quincy, he was under constant watch by the Shinigami. He had desired for both Quincy and Shinigami to work together. It was well known that Shinigami within the Soul Society are quite late to respond to hollows that appear within the real world. He had argued that it would be preferable to have some Quincy's in the real world who could quickly respond to hollows and to eradicate them quickly before they cause casualties. But the Shinigami had continued to dismiss these suggestions, telling Soken Ishida not to interfere with their work, and it is because of their ignorance that Soken Ishida ended up dying. In the end, Soken Ishida was killed by 5 large hollows, and it was evident that he was no match against them. Uryu helplessly watched on as the Shinigami were too late to respond. They had arrived 2 hours after his granddad had started to fight the hollows, but Soken Ishida had already been dead an hour before they had arrived. Uryu laments that if the Soul Society had taken up the philosophy of Uryu's grandfather, then he would still be alive today, if they had only recognized the strength that the Quincy's have. The whole purpose of this exercise was for Uryu to demonstrate to Ichigo the strength of the Quincy's, something that his grandfather wasn't even able to do. And it is for this reason that he is refusing Ichigo's help in this battle against the hollows. Because he is a Shinigami, they have very different ways of thinking. But once Uryu stops talking, Ichigo explains to him the true desire of his grandfather. He enlightens him that his grandfather's point wasn't to prove that the Quincy are stronger than the Shinigami. Soken Ishida had desired for both the Quincy and Shinigami to fight together as a team, and Ichigo relays to him that if they don't do this now, then they may never get another chance to. Ichigo encourages Uryu to fight alongside with him. They are up against overwhelming odds, and he prefers if they were fighting back to back. This speech convinces Uryu to work alongside Ichigo to take down the Menos Grande that has appeared. In chapter 49, Uryu notices that Ichigo's Reiatsu is flowing into his bow. This results in him coming up with an idea to take advantage of Ichigo's large Reiatsu. Uryu's plan is to use Ichigo's Reiatsu to fire a large arrow at the Menos Grande, but he is shocked to learn that Ichigo has never controlled his spiritual energy, so it must always be on full release all the time. When the Menos Grande begins to charge up a Sero, it is fired in Ichigo's direction, and he is able to successfully block the Sero with his Zanpakuto. Thanks to Ichigo repelling the Sero, it lands an attack on the Menos. When the Menos retreats, Ichigo declares a victory on their competition. But after the encounter with the Menos, Ichigo collapses, with the integrity of his Zanpakuto going out of control. The only way to assist Ichigo is for Uryu to absorb his Reiatsu into his bow and to fire it out with the arrows. Uryu is confident that he can take Ichigo's excess spiritual energy and focus it into an arrowhead and fire it off into the sky. He resolves to continue doing this until Ichigo's spiritual energy stabilizes. He begins to sustain injury onto his hand that's firing off the arrowheads, while attempting to stabilize Ichigo's spiritual energy. Ichigo notices that Uryu's arm is getting torn up and tells him to stop, but Uryu stubbornly continues, stating that he hates Shinigami, and if Ichigo doesn't survive, then how will they have their opportunity to fight each other? This compassionate but reckless attempt to help Ichigo results in Uryu telling him to survive so that he can beat him up one day. In this chapter, in an internal monologue, we see Uryu tell himself to endure the pain, because if Ichigo's spiritual energy continues to overload like this, then his body will be blown to pieces, and if that happens, then it will be Uryu's fault. It was thanks to his recklessness by using the holobait that this situation had occurred. In an attempt to avenge the death of his grandfather, he had been searching for Shinigami for years, and when he had finally found Ichigo, he had wanted to prove to the Shinigami that he was superior. Uryu had known that using the holobait would have been dangerous, and despite doing all of this, Uryu was surprised that Ichigo had wanted to join forces with him and to fight the hollows together. In the end, after this encounter, he apologizes to his master, as he acknowledges that he never hated the Shinigami. His only desire, like we have mentioned, was for the Shinigami and the Quincy to work together. Perhaps this entire time Uryu was trying to forget his own powerlessness. It was because of his powerlessness that he wasn't able to risk his life in order to save his grandfather. Instead of blaming himself, he had been blaming the Shinigami, trying to forget the shame that he had felt by just standing by and doing nothing, watching as his grandfather had faced off against those 5 hollows. Through helping Ichigo, he asks for his grandfather's forgiveness. He calls himself a weak student, somebody who back then wasn't willing to risk his own life in order to protect his master. After stabilizing Ichigo's spiritual pressure, he collapses to his knees with a very somber expression on his face, apologizing and asking for forgiveness for misunderstanding the teachings of his master. We then see Uryu in chapter 52 when he arrives to assist Rukia against Renji and Byakuya when they first arrive to take her back to the Soul Society. He dislikes that 2 armed men have confronted one defenseless girl. He introduces himself to Renji as a classmate of Rukia who just so happens to hate Shinigami. As expected, Uryu doesn't stand much of a chance against Renji and is easily defeated. After Rukia is taken to the Soul Society, he is treated by Urahara, but before he leaves Urahara's company, he tells him to look after Ichigo. In chapter 57, Uryu admits that he wasn't as strong as he thought he was, and he believes that the only person who can save Rukia now is Ichigo. He later trains by himself and rejects an offer by Orihime, Chad and Yoriichi to train alongside them. He requests to train alone because the method of training that he is using cannot be seen by anybody. In chapter 61, we see him open up a box which contains the Sanrei glove. Within a week, Uryu masters the Sanrei glove, and he joins Ichigo and the others to go and rescue Rukia from the Soul Society. It seemed highly unlikely that Uryu was going to assist them to rescue Rukia, but at the last moment he had arrived. Uryu had gone into hiding and prioritized his training after he had lost to a Shinigami. We know that when Uryu and the others arrive in the Soul Society, they are fired into the Serete thanks to Kukakushiba's cannon. The group ends up being separated, but in mid-air, Chad throws Uryu towards Orihime's direction, with the intention that Uryu will look after Orihime. After encountering and defeating a few Shinigami, they disguise themselves in Shinigami attire. They appear to be wearing 12th Division uniforms and are approached by members of the same division. Uryu suspects that there is something strange about the 12th Division members, but just as he warns Orihime, they self-destruct, as we learn that the leader of the 12th Division, Mayuri Kurosuchi, had been tailing Orihime and Uryu for a while. He had as bombs to injure the intruders. Uryu is disgusted by the captain's actions. After he comforts and reassures Orihime, he challenges Mayuri. The captain begins to express interest in turning Orihime into a research subject, even attempting to make a deal with Uryu in exchange of Orihime. Uryu appears before Mayuri and draws his bow, revealing that he is a Quincy. This is where Mayuri reveals that admittedly the Quincy are a rare species, but he had already completed all of his research on the Quincy years ago, and he is no longer interested in them. While Mayuri knows about the nature of the Quincy, Uryu on the other hand knows nothing about his opponent, leading Mayuri to comment that it is foolish for Uryu to have charged into the Soul Society without having studied his enemy. After the captain releases his spiritual pressure, Uryu tells Orihime to run away. When Orihime retreats, Uryu stands before Mayuri and protects her. Despite Mayuri having revealed his ranking as a captain, Uryu stands before his opponent with no fear or hesitation, and this is of course credited to the strong moral and ethical code that Uryu leads his life by. This battle against Mayuri is one of Uryu's most significant moments within the entire story. It leads to him losing his powers, as well as understanding the true circumstances behind the death of his grandfather, and we see an entirely different side to Uryu's character. After reading these portions of the story for the first time, Uryu's character really did grow on me, especially after his first appearance, where he was reckless by using holobait and condescending towards Ichigo. However, how he demonstrates his Quincy pride during this battle really redeemed his character. Mayuri explains to Uryu about how he wants to experiment on Orihime until there is nothing left of her body. Internally, he refers to Mayuri as a monster. Like the tactician that he is, he tries to devise a plan to take down Mayuri while he is speaking. He has already deduced that the captain's spiritual pressure is strong, but it is unstable. His aim is to buy enough time for Orihime to get away, and then find an opportunity to escape himself. Uryu begins his offensive strategy by firing an arrow towards Mayuri, which narrowly misses his head. What is evident is that Mayuri has indeed studied the Quincy very well, as he is able to identify all of the abilities and techniques that Uryu is using. In chapter 122, Mayuri decides to kill Uryu as he activates his Shikai. Uryu tries to react to Mayuri releasing his Zanbakuto, but he is distracted by Nemu, who appears in front of him. She grabs a hold of him as the captain attacks both Uryu and his own assistant. In total disbelief, he is confused as to why Mayuri would attack his own lieutenant. He is then angered by witnessing the depraved Mayuri beating up Nemu for not following his orders. After being cut by Mayuri's Shikai, Uryu is immobilized. Mayuri then loses interest and tries to leave, but Uryu tells him to stop. The captain comments on how Uryu had felt sympathy for Nemu despite the fact that she's his enemy. He then comments on the pride of the Quincy. He tells Uryu that the honor of being a Quincy must mean a lot to them, since it's the only thing that they speak about before they die. He then reveals to Uryu the sick and twisted research that he had done on the Quincy's, torturing them while they were alive, making them kill their own children. He had studied the Quincy race until there was nothing left of them. He then adds to his prior comment that every single Quincy that he had experimented upon at one point had mentioned about the honor of the Quincy. When Mayuri ordered these Quincy test subjects to do deplorable acts, they would respond by saying that their Quincy pride would not allow them to do such a thing. When Mayuri had become the head of the Soul Society's Research and Development Institute, the Quincy were already a very rare species. This had led to the Soul Society monitoring very closely the last few remnants of the Quincy race, and it is here that we learned that Mayuri was responsible for ordering the Shinigami to delay in responding to hollow attacks that occurred to Quincy. When the Shinigami had arrived and the Quincy had been defeated by the hollow, they would take the Quincy souls back to Mayuri, where he would turn them into research subjects. He then goes to describe how one of the final Quincy that he had experimented on was a nasty old man. He had kept calling out the name of his student. Mayuri then shows a photograph to Uryu of what was left of this old man after he had concluded his experiments. Looking at the photograph, in the reflection of Uryu's eyes, we can see the bloodied face of Soken Ishida, Uryu's grandfather. Mayuri seems to have difficulty remembering the name of the student that his last Quincy test subject had been continuously repeating, but Uryu overcomes the paralysis of Mayuri's Shikai and stands